Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. Richie, we had a bit of an extended hiatus here, and the basketball team is in a bit of a free fall. They've lost their last 3 games. I believe it's their first 3-game losing streak of the year. And I think they might have had one last year. Yeah, they did have one last year. But this is I'm starting to get a little worried about this team. Let's just first talk about last night's game and kind of talk about some overarching trends we've seen in the last few games. And after that, we'll talk a little b-ball recruiting. But tell me what you thought about last night's game.
They sucked. They flat out sucked. It was brutal to watch. It kind of went back and forth a little bit. I don't even know where to start. The shooting has been bad. The defense has been bad. The turnovers are just stupid turnovers. The fouls are kind of getting ridiculous. Back-to-back games with Paul fouling out. Paul shot 3 times. If as one of your top 3 scorers, and I think that's fair to say, you can't be shooting 3 times a game. Like, it's just not going to work. 3-point shooting minus Hyatt yesterday, it continues to be brutal. And I'm not saying you have to live and die by the 3 like some other teams do, but you have to hit a couple.
You have to hit the wide open looks, because that's the killer that Rutgers has. Is like they'll have a really nice play design and they'll kick it out to a guy in the corner wide open and they'll just brick it. Like Spencer's just I don't want him to be hurt, but I hope he's hurt in the sense that like that would explain why he's in this like such a deep slump.
Yeah.
But yeah, this 3-point shooting is abysmal.
Yeah, I'll get to Spencer in a sec, but like even Hyatt, like late game, there's a couple open threes he's taking, and then he's just completely like rimming out, and I'm like, damn, dude, like what is going on here with this team? Like 8 of 23, like we've seen too many single-digit makes and double-digit 20-plus attempts in games from 3, and it's not falling. Cam, like you mentioned, has just been the struggle bus. I don't know what to say there other than he's like, I think I said this earlier in the season too, actually. He's a shooter. He's going to hit him. He's going to have slumps, and this is just another one of his slumps, and this one's just taking a little bit longer to get out of. Once he gets out of that slump, I think he'll be back to normal Cam again, but I don't think for the most part he can be like a number 1 option on most teams. It would be nice to have like a better scoring threat, and then have him as the number 2, ideally, but it's clearly not happening. You do have Hyatt who's stepping up. I got to give him a lot of credit here. He stepped up big time yesterday. Career high 24. Like I said, Paul struggled. Cliff on defense. I'm like, what's going on there? Like, what the fuck? The other big man Walker got the guy at a high post a couple times. He gets the ball, and instead of like looking to pass like a normal big man would, he saw the lane, and just saw it was just him versus Cliff, and he was like not intimidated whatsoever. Just went up on Cliff, and I'm like, oh, like we're not gonna like play defense here? Like what the fuck? It's brutal. Losing Mag sucks. It hurts a lot, and I know you mentioned it to me off pod, but like most of these guys weren't playing when Mag was healthy. Now you need to throw in Palmquist, Miller, even Reber's playing the 4 at times. They're trying everything possible to try to make these guys rotational players when in reality they weren't rotational players. 2 weeks ago, a week ago.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what Mag did so well that's causing this team to kind of fall apart without him. So obviously he was a starter. He started every game this season. He was also an excellent defender. So when you have Caleb and Mag on the court, they're both so big and so lengthy that they can basically guard almost any position 1 through 5. And so there's not many teams in college who have more than 2 really good scorers. So when Caleb and Mag were on the court, when they were playing man, they could just take out the top 2 scorers. Now, obviously, if it's a guy like Zach Edey, you can't do that with Mag or McConnell. But for the most part, your top scorers in college are wings or guards. And so when Mag would come out, Caleb would just take the number 1 guy, and they'd kind of play help defense. And when McConnell would come out, Mag would kind of fill in McConnell's role. Now, if you kind of take a look at some of the game logs, a lot of these guys, like you said, weren't playing in any kind of crunch time minutes or any big time spots for the most part in this first half of the season. So the rotation was pretty tight between Paul, Caleb, Cam, Cliff, Andre Hyatt, Mag, and Derek Simpson. So those were like the main 7 guys that were playing. So now that we don't have Mag, we're losing like I believe, about 32 minutes a game. And we're filling that in with, Woolfolk was playing a decent amount earlier in the season, but he got in the doghouse. He just kept fouling. He wasn't able to stay on the court. Palmquist wasn't playing at all. I think there was like a month straight where he didn't play until the MSG game. No, he played before the game before that. So the Minnesota game and then MSG, he started playing more. The MSG game is where Mag got hurt. Reber, he's shown he's had his struggles this year as well. Jalen Miller wasn't playing a whole lot. So now you're playing essentially like 4 guys who were cast away at different points to help fill in those minutes that Mag gave you. And this team is not that deep. It probably was only about 7 players deep. And now we're having to fill in, arguably one of the best players in one of the most underappreciated players in the Big Ten. Because he was also, as the season went on, we saw his offensive game really start to flourish. He had an awesome turnaround jumper from mid-range that he was using. He had started to develop a really nice corner three-point shot. We all saw that in the Ohio State game to close that out. It was just a devastating loss, but these guys, the team needs to realize that, we can't just kind of get down in the dumps about this. We have to move on. This is, as good as he was, he's not coming back this year. So if they want to make a tournament run like we all thought they could when he was healthy, they really just need to start figuring this out and just kind of, mentally try and get over that hump.
Yeah. And then on top, like I said it before, the defense or lack thereof, it's just brutal. Like CJ Wilcher averages 7 points per game. And this man came in, went 5 of 9 from 3, and had 17. To Minaga, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Tamanaga, he averages 12 a game. He came out and hit 22, and that man was unstoppable. Not only from beyond the arc, but even like on his drives. He had one reverse layup and I think Cliff was the big man down low, and I'm just like, dude, that kid is like 5'11". You're 7 foot nearly, Cliff. Like, stop him.
They shot 58% from the field on 55 attempts. They shot 43% from 3 on 28 attempts. These guys were just. You got to give them credit because they were hitting open shots, but at the same time, they were creating way too easy opportunities for themselves. Like, we didn't close out on 3 very well. They were getting way too I don't know how they got so many open shots in the paint. It's insane. It's
disgusting. Absolutely. 40 points in the paint on a team that's significantly bigger than you.
Yep.
Like, it's just bad. It's and on top of that, like I know you mentioned before, like these role players they weren't role players before, but now they're role players. Like between Palmquist, Miller, Woolfolk, and Reber, they went 1 of 3. Like you need production out of the bench. We saw it last year in the last game of the season versus Notre Dame when no one scored. The game went to overtime and no one on the bench scored.
Yeah, we scored close to 90 points in that game. It was a double overtime game and not a single bench point. Unreal.
It's insane. But no, I think there is some optimism here, though. I know people are like already asking me on the boards, like, what are they going to win another game? Like, number 1, they play Minnesota. They're going to win another game.
Yep.
Number 2 is that you need to someone's got to step up. I know, like, everyone's like, have a players-only meeting. Just get the fucking coaching staff in there and just start telling them, like, yo, you guys want to win or do you not want to win? What the hell's the deal? Paul, you got to step it up. You got to start shooting more. Cam, figure it the fuck out. I don't know what's going on. Figure it out. And Cliff, what happened? Like, you just regressed completely.
Yeah.
So you're getting abused by Walker.
So Cliff, it's actually pretty jarring how much he has regressed offensively. His field goal percentage the last 2 years, 63%, 62%.
Mm-hmm.
This year, 51%. Like, it seemed like for my relatively untrained eye, it seemed like he was missing a lot more easy shots this year outside of dunks because Cliff, on a dunk attempt is basically a 90% shooter. But everything else, it seems like, he's under 50%, and that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fully know what it is. He's obviously taking more threes, but he hasn't taken that many. He's taken 21 this year. He took 6 last year. I just think that, like, he's fundamentally a little flawed on offense for, when he does these like quick turnaround hook shots, he's not even really like looking at the basket. He's just kind of like blindly throwing it up there. I don't really think he's developed a great post game.
It's better than what it was.
It's better than what it was, but it's still not great. His mid-range shot is kind of like non-existent. Last year, he would hit those knockdown like 12-footers pretty consistently from like the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember a single time he's hit that this year, and that's probably has at some point, but none are coming to mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's scary, kind of the regression that we've seen on offense from a few of these guys.
And even like there's a couple times, and this was kind of interesting to me. So Cliff would get the ball kind of midway through the paint, would get it, and then all of a sudden wait for like the double team to come that would usually come after him, and they just didn't send a double team. So I think he just was like, oh, okay. And then would panic and either like make a turnover or just go up for a stupid shot. And it was like, dude, you can't expect a double team every time. If you're open anywhere within that range.
He has really struggled when he's passed the ball and he's double teamed. I can't tell you how many times he's turned the ball over when he's gotten double teamed the last few games. Like, it's just the teams have figured him out. When he gets the ball, especially 15 feet from the basket, send help, because he's gonna probably throw it at the ground, have it get picked off, have it get swatted away. He really struggles when they send help defenders.
Yeah, and on top of it all, I didn't even mention it. Stop fucking yelling at each other on the court. You guys look like assholes. Like, just get it together. You're supposed to be the captains. Calm it down. Get everyone together. Relax. All in the same flow, and just figure it out. Like, so I like maybe you do need a players only meeting. I don't know how successful those things really are, other than the fact that it's like it becomes news for some reason. They had a players only meeting. Did you believe that all the players met together? Motherfucker, they meet together every day, like all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no difference. It's just like maybe sit a guy down and be like, hey, figure it out.
They are a bit overblown, but they need to change something, because they're clearly frustrated. They're now on the longest losing streak of the year. The Illinois game, we haven't talked about the Illinois or Indiana game. The Indiana game, whatever, we played pretty well. It just didn't work out for us. The Illinois game, how long did we go without scoring in that game? Like,
there was a 10-minute stretch, I believe.
10-minute stretch. We led for the majority of that game. So I think we led for 25 minutes. I don't think Illinois had a single lead so I'm looking now. Rutgers took the lead there with 18 minutes left in the first half, and they relinquished that lead midway through the second half. So they basically had a lead for 60% of the game, and then they just didn't score the rest of the time.
Yeah, it's ugly. I don't know, man. It was brutal. This entire little stretch is it's not fun to watch. It's miserable. They can't hit shots. They get frustrated at each other. Like, I don't know. You just got to hope you can bounce back. You get a nice little break now, since this was a Tuesday game. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 days before the next. Yeah, so a couple days off.
Play 3 of our next 5 games on the road. They're all obviously Big Ten games. Saturday against Wisconsin, a team that typically is really good, but this year they're experiencing a bit of a down year. I wouldn't say like any specific game is a must win at this point, but I don't know. Like we were talking about Rutgers as a 5 seed, 2 weeks ago. Now, like, if you're an 8 or 9 seed, that's brutal, man, because then you have to play very likely you have to play a 1 seed in the second round. You can probably kiss your chance of going to the Sweet 16 goodbye in that situation. But, man, this is a team that really just needs to make a run here in order to kind of bounce back in terms of its seeding, because I really don't want to see them become a 9 seed.
I don't even know what to say. Like, this team went from 4 seed potential to 5 seed to 6 seed, 7 seed. Now they were number 2 in the Big Ten. Now they're number 7, tied for 3rd or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
This conference is miserable. It's not fun. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, even last night, like, Rutgers loses to a 12-win Nebraska team. Illinois loses to they're a 14-win Penn State team. Like, this conference, I hate it. I hate everything.
It's brutal. It's kind of like the Big East of old days, where 2/3 of the league were probably making the tournament every year, and everybody just beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to say. Maybe they should be able to bounce back. We'll see what happens, but until that happens, just got to keep watching and just seeing what happens. I keep saying what happens. Like, there's just nothing else to say about this team. Like, it's just
I do want to shout out Hyatt, though, because I don't think he got enough credit for he is stepping up. Like, He scored obviously a career high in points last night. He had 12 against Illinois, 9 against Indiana. Like, he is a guy that understands now that he's needed on this team. Yeah. And I think he'll continue to make noise as, he gets more and more comfortable being a starter and being relied upon as, arguably our top offensive option right now, because, you can't trust Cam. I think the way to fix this team is Paul needs to be aggressive constantly, because his aggression, if he just keeps getting, because he's fucking huge, if he keeps getting those like relatively open layups or getting fouled on layups, teams are going to start sending help, which will create open outside shooters. Like if he just, drives and then gets the second defender, he'll kick it out to the corner, and I'll take a wide open three any day. Sometimes they'll fall down, sometimes they won't. But I think this offense really needs Paul to be aggressive moving forward, especially if Cams continues to struggle without Mag. Yeah. It's a frustrating time, but I wouldn't give up on this team. They're still a good team. It's just, no team goes through a whole season without a slump or without some downtime. Rutgers experienced that middle of last season, then they went on that like unprecedented run where they beat 4 ranked teams as an unranked team. That was the only time that's ever happened in college basketball history. So this was different circumstances, but basketball is very momentum based, both in game and in the season. So I think they could break out of this, but they need to change some things. You're not going to break out of this by doing the same thing repeatedly. And like you said, they have some time off. Hopefully Pike can get them back on the right track. But let's kind of pivot a little bit, because I think we've talked about basically everything we can with the current team. Let's talk about recruiting. How is Rutgers doing on the recruiting trail? I know you said you have some nuggets to drop, and Sadie's in the background.
Yeah, she's going nuts over here. I don't know what she's doing. She got the Zoom in. I just heard her go underneath my chair, run in a circle, run in the hallway.
I see her right behind you.
Yeah, she's going absolutely nuts. But yeah, no. Anyway, so Naas Cunningham just dropped to top 5. It's something to monitor, I guess, a little bit. Duke was his number 1 option, it seems like, but it doesn't sound like the Blue Devils want him per se. So it's more of like a case where it sounds like Memphis is probably going to hold the lead here. He's all NIL all the way. He's intriguing. So he's a Jersey guy. He's from Gil St. Bernard's. Obviously, Pikel's very close with the Gil St. Bernard's coach, considering his son plays there. Paul Mulcahy played there. Every time I go to practice, Coach Cena is there. Like, it's a good connection to have by all means. But yeah, so he was at Gil St. Bernard's, went to Overtime Elite, which is like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not working out for any prospect whatsoever, it seems like. So it seems like all of them are just leaving Overtime Elite and going back to high school or going pro, whatever, however.
Have you heard that's what Naas's plan is, to leave Overtime Elite?
Yes. So that's like a bigger rumor than I thought. I know we talked about it on the boards. We talked about it together too. It does sound like he's going to go back to the high school route next year. The rumor is Don Bosco.
That would be crazy.
That's where things get interesting, because I know everyone wants to say that. So put it like this. Memphis is probably number 1 for Naas right now. And that's he's going to visit there this week, actually, I think, today, something like that. It's intriguing now, because the former director of the New York Rens AAU program is now an assistant coach at Memphis. So that's where Naas Cunningham comes into play. Now, if you put, say, a Memphis commit in Naas Cunningham with Dylan Harper at Don Bosco, which is a rumor, is Memphis going to take a little bit of a leap in Harper's recruitment? That's something I would keep an eye on.
Well, also, obviously, Harper plays for the New York Rens, and he also knows the assistant coach as well.
Yeah, I should have prefaced by saying that. But, yeah, so now that's going to be something interesting to keep a close eye on. Because Memphis is in his top 5. I know we kind of just like, whatever, Memphis. It's Duke or Rutgers, but I don't know. It would be really interesting to see what happens there. I do think it's still Duke or Rutgers with Indiana 3rd. And I think he has Kansas and he has someone else. Who else does he have? It's Memphis, right? Memphis is 5th.
For Naas or Dylan?
For Dylan. It's Memphis, I believe. Oh, no, it's not Memphis. I take it back. Okay. I'm just going to rewind that entire thing.
Yeah, so what is his top 5 now that you have it open?
It's Auburn, who he wants to visit still, Kansas, who he wants to visit still, Duke he visited, and Indiana he visited. And Rutgers he hasn't taken an official visit to yet, but he will be.
Okay.
So, I mean, end of the day, I still think Rutgers has a really good shot at Dylan. I think Naas going to Memphis might help Memphis try to sneak in again because of that and the AAU connection, but I don't know how much. But it depends. If you're Duke, would you take Naas just to try to get Dylan? Maybe.
It's such a funny question to ask yourself because Naas is a top 10 prospect in the class of 24, rather. And it's universal. Like, nobody has him ranked outside the top 10. But in order for teams to have to think about taking him, that to me screams that there's possibly, some red flags there.
Yeah, he seems very cocky. I didn't actually like him when he was at Gil St. Bernard's. I thought he was okay. I thought the cockiness and attitude was a big issue. And I think that's a big issue with a lot of recruits nowadays. I'll go back to, let me think, St. Joe's Metuchen. When they had Carl Towns, they had Marcus Towns, they had Wade Baldwin. I thought Wade Baldwin's potential was through the roof. The man had the ball on like a string, and he was lengthy, a wing that everyone wants nowadays. And he was just so cocky that most schools would just see that and just be like, no, like you're kind of, put it nicely, like you're kind of a dickhead. Like stop being a jerk. Just be a nice guy in general, and you'll probably get a better recruitment. That's how it works most of the time too. Like,
yeah,
of course, like there's programs like Rutgers isn't going to turn away a 5-star because the guy's a jerk.
No.
Like most programs won't, but at the end of the day, like if you're getting multiple 4-stars and you're like, this 4-star is a little, we don't really want him. He's not going to fit our culture. At the end of the day, it's culture. Like I know Greg preaches it a lot. I know Steve preaches it a lot. That's what it is. Like you have to get good culture fits. One bad culture fit and the whole program could go downhill. Completely.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway, that's all we really got on Naas. Dylan, like I just said, still going to take a couple visits. Nothing scheduled as of right now. I'm assuming he's going to wait until after the season, just because it's getting down to that nitty gritty part of the year for high school basketball. It does seem like he's going to decide in summer. There's no specific timeline for that. We'll see where that goes, but other than that, it's kind of relatively quiet for the most part. Not a lot of new offers. The staff's hosting guys here and there. I saw a clip of Delquan Warren the other day dunk on someone. That was pretty cool. I'll post that in on the boards. But
he's a freak.
It's quiet.
Good to know. Yeah, it was interesting seeing Naas Cunningham put Rutgers in his top 5 after us not really hearing anything, and I think we both heard some rumors about him coming back to New Jersey for high school, especially the Bosco rumor. It's very intriguing to me because I think it's more likely that Dylan would help push him towards Rutgers than Naas would help push him towards Memphis, especially because Dylan doesn't have Memphis on his top 5. But everything can change with basketball recruiting. Who really knows? I did want to send some shout-outs to our different sports at Rutgers. Women or softball started off 5-0. It's their best start in forever. I don't know how exactly long it's been, but they've played 5 West Coast road games to start the season, and they've won all 5.
Yep.
They have another game this Friday. Baseball starts on Friday as well. They open up at Campbell University in North Carolina. Campbell Camels. It's where Bo Mascow's brother plays, Chad Mascow.
You're right. Forgot about that.
Also, men's and women's lacrosse are both off to hot starts. They both have won their opening 3 games, 3 combined, that is. They're both also ranked in the top 10 for their respective sports as well. They're both ranked number 8 on Inside the Cross right now. So good starts to all of our spring sports for the most part. I don't know if you saw this, but Maryland lost its first game in 2 years against Loyola this past weekend. So
it's a rough one.
So Rutgers has a really tough schedule if you look at it for men's lacrosse. They play Loyola Maryland soon. They also play Princeton, who's top 10, Ohio State top 10, Johns Hopkins is top 10, Maryland is top 10. So they've a total brutal schedule.
Let's not ignore Army. Army's not a pushover, no matter what sport.
Army's always good too. Yep. Women's lacrosse schedule is brutal too. Just don't get me wrong. Like they play the 15th ranked team in the country, the second ranked team in the country, 17th ranked team, the 20th ranked team, the 4th ranked team, the 6th ranked team, and the 12th ranked team at different points this year. So both teams are in for a gauntlet, but they've started off to a strong start. So just want to give those teams a shout out. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention before we sign up here?
Yeah, the only thing I want to mention is I got this bad boy in the mail the other day. Eric brand whiskey. It's pretty good. It's different. It's definitely not doing shot whiskey, although I thought it was at first. So
it's a bourbon.
Yeah, a couple shots of those, and it's downhill the next morning. I can tell you that much. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm repping LeGrand to everything. I got the coffee shirt.
Yeah, man.
The whiskey. I mean, I might as well just pour this in the coffee at this point. But no, it's pretty good. It goes down pretty smooth. Highly recommend. I don't think it's in stores yet, or it might be in like 1 or 2 stores in Manasquan because I know we had some kind of release party recently. But it's online. Just order it. Ships to your door. They didn't even ask me for ID, so that was cool. It didn't matter, I guess. But most of the time they're like, "Oh, you're 21." Like it's even 28. Fuck off. Like give me the bottle. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, no, pretty good. I do recommend everyone trying it. And then I think it says $5.20 per case is donated to that Christopher Reeve Foundation too. So it's for a good cause. So if you like drinking and you want to help people out, the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. Another cool product that Eric's putting out. He's got the Night Society, he's got coffee, he's got whiskey now. He's
a busy man.
His empire out. Shout out to Eric. Well, that's kind of it from us. It's a weird time of the year because, football's in a dead period. They just started back up. Spring practice hasn't started yet. So there's there's just really not much to talk about, except for basketball. So we'll stay tuned to that. We don't have another game obviously until Friday or Saturday. So just stay tuned because there's still a lot of time left in the season. And, I still feel good about this team, but clearly things need to change a bit. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.